There is, or was, life on Mars. This is the conclusion of many researchers who've studied NASA photographs of Mars transmitted by the Viking spacecraft. Several photographs show a face staring out into the cosmos. It seems impossible, but as correspondent Carla Wohl reports, there are clues here on Earth that add an intriguing new dimension to the face on Mars.
Here in the countryside of south-central England, in a hamlet named Avebury, stand 5,000-year-old stone structures of unknown origin. There are also circular mounds built for a purpose no one has deciphered. But now, an intriguing new theory suggests that these mysterious monuments are connected to similar formations on the surface of Mars.
The complex on Mars is exceedingly important in my view because it's highlighted by the presence of the famous face on Mars, which acted as a beacon and probably attracted our attention to the whole area.
David Percy is an author, filmmaker, and paranormal researcher. He believes that this face is not a trick of light and shadow, that it's part of a vast complex of Martian structures created by intelligent life.
This is the whole of the complex. Over here to the west, we have an area which we call the city. And over here to the right is a crater, and beneath it, down here, a spiral mound. And over to the west, a pyramid which is five-sided.
In 1991, while researching the Avebury crop circle phenomenon, Percy made a startling connection.
I took an Ordnance Survey map of the area and superimposed it over the NASA photograph of the complex in its entirety and found that it matched.
The most striking match was made here at the famous Avebury Circle.
It's about 1/4 mile in diameter, and around about 5,000 years ago, they shifted approximately 4 million cubic feet of material. One would want to ask why. My hypothesis is that this is a copy of the crater on Mars.
That's a big stretch for a lot of people to believe that this is a duplicate of something on Mars.
Sure.
How do you get there?
Well, this isn't the only item that we're dealing with here. We have just a short distance away Silbury Hill. It's the same relative size as a spiral mound on Mars and is the same relative distance to the crater. It would have taken about 700 people 10 years to build this. It was equivalent in effort to putting a man on the moon in the 60s.
Avebury Circle and Silbury Hill do bear an uncanny resemblance to their counterparts on Mars. But I found some of Percy's other theories harder to accept.
David, I have to tell you that this, to me, looks like an ordinary country path.
Yes, I agree with you. It is, in fact, an ordinary country path, but it happens to be the analogue of the top ridge of the pyramids in the city on Mars.
But if you really want to see something, don't you think you'll see it? I mean, can't you be making things because you want it to fit your theory?
Yes, of course that can be done, and the people who look at this information have to see for themselves. You've got to explain, for instance, why that crater is positioned exactly where it is on this planet. It isn't at a random place. It is a very accurately measured point between the North Pole and the equator. If you draw a line from the wall down to the south to the spiral mound, and then up again to that tetrahedral rim pyramid, you get just under 19.5 degrees. If you do exactly the same thing at Avebury, you get precisely the same measurement. You cannot get such a correspondence just by wishful thinking.
How do you think it was created? Who do you think created it, and why?
Clearly, this complex on Mars that we're talking about was built by intelligent beings who went to Mars and built the complex because they were working on a project. And this project, in my view, concerned the emerging beings on this planet.
Percy believes that the extraterrestrials came to Avebury centuries ago to change the course of human evolution, and they conducted experiments in genetic engineering.
I believe they constructed the complex to undertake a genetic project that concerned the emerging beings on this planet. And I believe that that spot marks the birthplace of human beings, Cro-Magnon man.
Percy has found an unlikely ally for his bizarre theory in evolutionary researcher Stan Gooch. They have concentrated on the chain of human development, which made an unexpected and unexplained leap from Neanderthal man, who appears more ape-like, to Cro-Magnon man, who appears more human.
How do evolutionists explain that?
Well, they don't. They just drop the subject. They say, well, we'll find the home site of Cro-Magnon man one day, and it doesn't really matter. They just brush it aside.
What do you think of David's theory, that in fact it was genetic interference from extraterrestrials that explains this?
I think the extraterrestrial theory is more likely than any, because why have we not found the home sites where Cro-Magnon evolved over periods of millions of years? That's what's required.
Why would extraterrestrials on Mars be concerned with our development down here?
Because they have always been concerned with our development. I'm absolutely convinced we're related to other beings elsewhere in our galaxy, and indeed in other galaxies too.
You realize how fantastic all this sounds.
Yes.
Do you worry that people will think you're crazy?
No, because I believe we will actually be able to go to that site and see the things that they were doing. I predict that when we go there, we will find out a lot more that will corroborate this unfolding story.
NASA agrees that the Viking space probe has made significant scientific contributions. However, they steadfastly maintain that proof of life on Mars is not one of them.